Good evening, everybody. And if you're just tuning in live, you are listening to the Angel Rock on United Public Radio Network, also known as UFO Paranormal Radio Network. I want to say a huge shout out to all of my guests. Followers here. It's so nice to see all your comments. We're going to try and involve you. I always try to do that with the people that attend live. For those listening, that are just listening, but you want to watch and you want to join in the comments. Some of the best places where you can join in, where we will see the comments, is the Facebook page. It's called UFO Paranormal Radio. You just have to check it out. It'll be streaming live on there. It should be, as well as we are streaming to our main YouTube channel, which is also found under UFO Paranormal Radio. And then we can see your comments, as well as we are streaming to my guest page. We will mention that very shortly once after I read her bio. A little bit about myself. I'm the host of the Angel Rock. My name's Lorilei Potvin. I am a Canadian clairvoyant medium, crystal Reiki energy healer, Akashic Records practitioner, a spiritual teacher and mentor, and I'm also a registered nurse. And I should mention to you that even though I'm Canadian, the wonders of the internet, we are streaming to you live from New Orleans, Louisiana. I want to give Joe Montaldo a huge shout out. He is the owner of this network, and he provides this wonderful platform for us, for a guest show. And there's something for everybody here. So please make sure to share it with your friends. Bring it over. And I also want to mention we're broadcasting from 105.3 in New Orleans as well. If you've never been to the show before, I say I cover all aspects of the esoteric, spirituality, a little bit of paranormal and truth seeking thrown in, but always with a positive spin. And the guests that I have on my show, our guest this evening is no different. They're people that are doing incredible things, regular, everyday people, whether they're doing it extracurricularly or professionally, and they're making a positive change for humanity. So welcome to all the new people to the show and those that return and continue to support our network and my show weekly. I really appreciate having you all here. Now let's get to our guest's bio. You guys are probably going to see a lot of her and I together eventually in the future, because it was like we talked and gosh, it was like we knew each other forever. So her name is Nicole Antoinette, and she's a professional psychic medium and spiritual mentor. Her compassion, kindness, and playfulness set her apart from others in the field. After growing up in an abusive religious household, Nicole made it her mission to seek out her own spiritual truth. Now she inspires people from all over the world. She's got an incredible YouTube channel we're going to talk about. She, like I said, she's also a host on our network, and she inspires people to seek out their own spiritual truth as well and path, regardless of where it may lead. Her passion is teaching people to accept, embrace, and enhance their own psychic gifts. She is one of our newest hosts on the network on Tuesday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with her wonderful podcast, Guiding Echoes, same name with her YouTube channel and her business. So welcome, Nicole. Did I miss anything? Probably, right? I can't hear you, honey. Are you muted? Maybe you're muted.
There we go. Yeah,
There we go. There we go.
there was a loud plane going by. I'm like, no one
I
wants to hear that.
figured. I figured. Did I miss anything? Because this girl can
I
do
think you
anything,
got
I
it
think.
all. I think
Mhm.
you got all of it.
She's an
We're good.
incredible healer, and I can honestly vouch for that because we have a lot in common. And I know, and I'm going to spill the beans a bit about you, Nicole. She did
Sure.
something with me the first day I met, just the way the conversation led. Of course, she asked my permission, and the things I felt shift were so incredible. Like it was such a physical feeling. And you blew me away, Nicole. You were the real deal.
Oh, thank you.
You
Yeah,
really
I'm
are.
noticing that a lot of my work seems to be shifting more towards healing, whereas
Hmm.
before there was a big emphasis on, of course, the mediumship and tarot and divination.
Hmm.
But over the last few months, especially, I've been noticing that I'm just kind of naturally navigating more towards a
Hmm.
um, healing energy and empowerment, trying to empower people.
Hmm.
But the healing energy, I think, has been really important, especially especially after what we've all been through over the last 2 years.
Yes, yes, definitely. So I always do this with my guests. I always start at the beginning if you're comfortable. Like you mentioned a little bit about your childhood, and then it's so interesting from the background that you've come from and then where you are now. So I'd love to hear more about your story.
Sure. So, I grew up in a religious household. My parents were abusive, they were controlling. My father's a sociopath. My mother has borderline personality disorder. And for people who are not familiar with BPD, people who have that borderline personality disorder, their emotions fluctuate very quickly. And they also have a very, very strong sense of narcissism. So when you are around someone with that personality, there's no stability there, and you do have to walk on eggshells. And someone with BPD, they might think a joke about a certain topic is funny one day, and then the next day they'll think it's outrageous, like they'll be mad, so they're unable to regulate their emotions, and they tend to have very strong narcissistic characteristics. And then, of course, we all know what a sociopath is. Although Hollywood has blown out of proportion how sociopaths actually are, they don't care about other people. They don't have emotions, but they're not all serial murderers like Hollywood seems to have us believe. But they are extremely manipulative, and they play a lot of power games. And so that was the dynamic with my parents. And they had myself, my brother. I have an older sister, and it was really rough growing up that way. So when you throw religion into the mix, well, now they could use the Bible to manipulate everything as well. So they were physically abusive, emotionally abusive. They just were not good people. And because they had subscribed to their own idea of Christianity, it meant that my brother, sister, I were not allowed to explore our own spiritual beliefs. And we were really kind of forbidden from even having any psychic abilities. The gifts of the spirit, of course, were allowed in the house. So like speaking in tongues and healing. But as far as being able to speak to the dead and sense different energies, they would have thought they did believe all of that was demonic. So it was difficult growing up in that household because I always had a strong inclination towards that which was psychic. I loved watching science fiction. I loved fantasy movies, and I really always resonated with, fairies and witches.
Me too. Yeah.
Anything magical, yeah.
Yes.
Anything magical was just a lot of fun.
It still is to this day.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So growing up, when I became and then also I was homeschooled by those people from second grade all through high school. So that was really rough because it meant I was really isolated and confined through all of my childhood and teenage years. The only exception was I did have a part-time job at a radio station, so that was fun. And that allowed me to get out and for a little bit. And then also we went to church, so because they had to be sure that their Christian mask was intact. So that was really the only type of socialization that I got was church and my part-time job. And then as an adult, went through a lot of different phases, really just trying to find myself and figure out my way in this world. And went from, trying to be an atheist, but that didn't work out. And went back to Christianity and tried different branches of Christianity, but that didn't work either because I just couldn't believe that an all-loving God could send people to hell. Like that just didn't make sense to me. Yeah. So the way that I ended up owning Guiding Echoes and building Guiding Echoes and opening up to my psychic gifts and abilities was that one year I decided to decorate my house for Halloween. And I wanted to create a seance scene in my front yard inspired by the seance scene in Disney's The Haunted Mansion.
Gotcha.
Which is one of my favorite rides. Yeah. So to do that, I needed a round table, I needed a crystal ball, and of course I needed tarot cards. So I went online. I went onto Amazon and started looking up different tarot cards, and I wanted to be sure I found just the right deck.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, so I started scrolling, started looking, and there was one deck in particular that just really grabbed my attention. But it was $30, and I didn't want to spend that much on a tarot deck, so I kept looking. But that deck just held me captive. caught all my attention. So I put it on my wish list and continued to look, walked away from the computer. And about 3 nights later, I woke up in the morning, was unable to go back to sleep. And I think it was like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. finally gave up because I kept thinking about the cards.
Yeah.
Like I kept thinking about those cards. They were haunting me. So finally went online, ordered them, and completely forgot all about them.
Mm-hmm.
So when they came in the mail, like 5 days later in my Amazon box, I'm like, what the heck did I order from Amazon?
I love that when that happens.
Yeah. Like, what? So opened it up and like, oh my gosh, my tarot cards. I was all excited.
Yeah.
And the moment I held them in my hand and started looking through them, I felt this need to protect them. And I knew right then and there I could not use these beautiful, wonderful images as any type of decoration. Like I could not allow anything bad to happen to these cards. So my friend was there and he was like, well, then what are you going to do with them if you're not going to use them for decorations? I'm like, without a beat, I was like, well, I'm going to learn how to read them. And I did.
It's like your home when you find it, right? It feels like home.
Mm-hmm. So ended up buying way too many books on tarot, how to read tarot. Ended up joining an online tarot group where people learned tarot online. We gave each other readings. We joined an online tarot course, and then I just excelled very quickly. I had just a natural knack for it, and became the teacher's pet.
Jeez, I wonder why with that energy of yours.
I don't know. And so, so since I was excelling so quickly, I ended up opening Guiding Echoes, and it was really kind of an experiment. I was like, well, I wonder if, what would happen if I opened a Twitter account, made a little, Facebook page, made a little website. And within just like, I think a week or two of posting on Twitter and talking about, Guiding Echoes and posting more spiritual stuff, I got my first sale and I was so excited. And that's what started this whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have to start somewhere. That's why I always ask people, how did you get to where you are today? Because I always find everybody has the most incredible, unique story. That's kind of how spirit works, right? Like when you talk even about, say, the law of attraction, for example, right? And the thing that we forget as humans is we want to figure it all out. And then the ego kicks in, right? Is no, that's not going to happen. And no, that's not going to happen. But if you can just let it be just one little thing, right? And then just let it sit there. And then you back up after it happens. And you go, holy crap, I couldn't have figured that out in a million years if I tried. And it's kind of like that way all the time with the universe, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, if anyone had told me, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, that this is what I would be doing right now, I'd be like, you are on crack. There's no way I would have believed that this is the route I would have gone down. And I mean, that was 10 years ago. So in fact, Guiding Echoes is 10 years old this month.
Oh, happy anniversary.
Thank
Good for you. That's exciting because, again, I think I'd seen a comment. I'm going to read Auntie Coco's comments here. You guys are leaving wonderful comments. Hello to everybody that's here. We love having you here. Nicole and I talk a lot. Like we will talk for like 2 minutes and thinking, and 2 hours have gone by. It's like I feel like I've known her my whole life here. So we're seeing your wonderful comments. Please continue commenting. But I love what you said here, Auntie Coco. You said that is how spirit is. We'll keep knocking until we answer. And you're right. Spirit does, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But the other thing that spirit will do too is, because I've been going through this recently, is I've been trying to make plans. Like you were saying, we tried to figure things out. Mm-hmm. And so for the last 4 months, I've been having an issue with just, trying to find a home. No other way to put it, trying to find a home. Mm-hmm. And there's certain states that I tried to move to, and the universe didn't just prompt me not to go there or prompted me to change direction or intuitively was like, Nicole, that's probably not a good idea. No, the universe came and just slammed.
I guess they just slammed you, right?
Oh,
yeah.
Not. It wasn't a gentle nudge. It wasn't a very soft closing of the door. It was like, bam!
Yeah.
It's like, okay, Well, I guess that's not the route I'm going.
I got that message. I'm not going to say
Not
anything,
gonna
but a
push it.
conversation we had about this. There was one thing that you mentioned, though, and I remember from an outsider looking in, it's always easy. I always say this versus ourselves looking in the mirror. It doesn't matter whether we do what we do, whether people do what they do, right? When we have it so close, it's so hard to see, whereas people on the outside can see it.
Yeah.
You just lit up with one thing that you happened to mention. I won't say
Right.
anything else, but you could see it, right? You could
Because we
see
need
it.
to see if that's going to play out or not. Because
Mm-hmm.
I've made those plans before a couple years ago and they didn't work out. So now it's like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, universe, I'm not even trying anything right now. I'm
Yeah.
just I'm just going down the path that I am feeling intuitively
Mm-hmm.
toward as far as my work and new projects. And I'm just trusting that the right,
Yeah.
situation as far as where I'm supposed to land will open up. But yeah, it's been an interesting ride.
Yes, but that's the way life is, right? Like sometimes it seems like everything's just status quo and wonderful. And I've had this conversation with a few people, for example, and I don't want to make it sound negative, but standing back and looking in, that when things are beautiful and they're amazing, and it's like that feeling of being newly in love, that honeymoon phase, no matter what it is, could be a
Yeah.
job, could be a relationship, right? What have we all probably said? I know I have. I wish this could go on forever. I love it. It's amazing. This is like, why can't life always be this way?
Yeah.
But because I think we have free will, right? And when we go through adversity as human beings, which we will, and I believe Earth is a school, so we're here to learn, right? I think that what happens is when we go through difficult things, that's the impetus that gives us the most to be able to learn. We have the choice
Yeah.
that we can get stuck in that situation, or we have the choice that we can make a difference, or we can, like, I always use this example, and again, might sound negative, but I don't mean that, but through many tragedies we have seen people create incredible things. For example, parents that have lost a child very tragically, they
Yeah.
either might lobby their government, regardless where they live, to have laws changed or foundations started, or they've made that choice and they've moved forward with it. Not just parents, those are just two examples.
Sure.
And I think that's, I don't know, what do you think about that? Do you think that that's where we have a lot of learning happen? Like it seems like it's the biggest shift, if you will.
I think so. One of the things that I've been learning more about or contemplating more about is like, why do these bad things happen?
I
Like, why do these,
know.
yeah, because
Mm-hmm.
we'll go through situations where it's not just something bad that happens and you can shake it off. It's like these soul sucking
Mm-hmm.
experiences that just
Mm-hmm.
leave you so depleted and defeated. And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
what the heck was that about? That's really
Mm-hmm.
difficult. So, one of the things I've been opening up a little bit more about was the relationship that I've been in for the past 2 years. It was actually
Mm-hmm.
pretty toxic. I was with someone
Mm-hmm.
who was selfish and was consistently ignoring my needs. And so,
Mm-hmm.
out of that, over the last few months, I've been putting together a new project called the Victim's Pedestal.
Yes. Yes.
And so the Victim's Pedestal was created so that victims of narcissistic abuse, emotional or psychological abuse, could share their stories. And so I'm
Mm-hmm.
still putting everything together,
I'm
but
excited about it.
basically, yeah. And so the reason it's called the Victim's Pedestal is because in the beginning of a narcissistic relationship, and this can be true of a romantic relationship or even a friendship,
Yeah.
that person, the narcissist, will come in very strong and they will start what is known as the love bombing stage. And so love bombing can look like a lot of different things, but it almost always boils down to the narcissist giving you a lot of attention. So for me, the narcissist was texting me every day, calling me every day, shortly after we had met, and it did feel good, and he was giving me all these amazing compliments, and I was giving him compliments back because I love giving compliments.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very generous with them.
Yes, you
you
are.
know
Mm-hmm.
so having someone that was recognizing the hard work that I've put into guiding echoes, and also telling me I was beautiful, and just saying all those things that I really needed to hear. And for him to say them consistently for a while, that was the form of love bombing I was getting. And so that's how they essentially put you on that pedestal. Like, they just make you feel like you're the only person in the world, and it feels like this fairy tale romance, and this person can never hurt you, and you finally found your person. And everyone I know who's been through a narcissistic relationship, they've all gone through that same thing in the beginning. What's interesting is we'll all tell you that we knew something was off in the beginning. We just couldn't figure out what, but there was something, you just couldn't put your finger on it. So that is the first stage of the victim's pedestal. Is they will love bomb you, and everyone's different. So they might love bomb you with gifts or grand gestures. It might be that they're calling you all the time, but basically the reason that they do this is they're giving you the dopamine rush, but they want to get you addicted to them, and it works. It usually works. Yeah. So slowly but surely, they start to knock you off that pedestal, and they can do that through a variety of ways. Like, there was a sociopath that I was with for 7 years, and he was awful. He would call me names every day. He was always putting me down. He'd fly into these fits of rage consistently, and that was really confusing. But that's a way of knocking someone off the pedestal, because you go from being the thing that they love the most to feeling like you're worthless and being treated like you're worthless. And so the last relationship I was with a covert narcissist, so that was a lot harder to detect. Because instead of yelling and arguing, they stonewall you, so they just don't say anything at all. And when you tell them, like, I'd really love to make plans so that we can go to the beach this weekend, or check out this castle I've been wanting to see, there's another form of stonewalling where they just won't respond to you, or they just make their own plans. And that was the issue I was having with the last covert. Was he was basically acting like he was single and just doing his own thing. Didn't matter what I wanted or what I was asking for. And so I went from being the person that was supposedly the most precious to him to just like, you don't matter. I do what I want. I'm going to continue talking to other women. In fact, I might even flirt with other women, and you're just going to have to deal with it. So that's a way of devaluing someone too. So the victim's pedestal gives victims the ability to go back onto that pedestal and tell their story and tell people what they went through. And this is so important, because so many victims are shamed, and narcissists get away with a lot of abuse. And when a victim of any type of abuse walks away, they feel a lot of shame, and they feel embarrassed, and they feel humiliated, because it's like, why didn't I see that coming? And their friends and loved ones, they fall in usually one of two camps. One of them is like, one is that they will tell you that something's wrong with you because your narcissistic partner is so great and so charming, so there must be something wrong with you. So that's something a lot of victims go through. The second thing is that people will just blame victims and say, well, you're too codependent. Well, I would never let anyone treat me that way. So there's a sense of shame that victims almost always go through. And here's what I want victims of any type of abuse to know: it's not your fault. You didn't ask for this. You didn't do that. You were abused because someone decided to abuse you. It's not like you sat there and you're like, hey, what would be amazing this weekend? If you could emotionally put me down. Could you do that for me? That'd be so great. Like, who's doing that?
I highlighted this comment because Zach Mann has been a huge supporter of my show and channel. He has been here. You have been here, Zach, since the beginning. And you know what? I thank you for sharing this here, because Zach is a sweetheart. And he said, I just got out of a toxic relationship after 10.5 years. The signs were present looking back, and I was just too much in love to notice.
Yep.
And we have had a conversation about this with men, because I did know some men, and I would never push my ideas on people. but there, you know what? There are people that I think are, regardless of gender or what, right? And I understand why you're focusing on women. And I'm going
Right.
to just add a little bit here. And I'm not overgeneralizing. I'm not saying that this is everything. What I'm saying is, having been in this field quite a long time myself, I've been in it for God, I think 18 years, at least 20 years. And probably before then, just didn't realize that what the things I was so intuitive about, what they were, they had a name. Okay. Is I think that as people that are empathic, and we kind of put out an energy, and some of you in the audience will notice this. You'll walk into a store and you'll be minding your business, and some little soul will walk up and start talking to you or make a comment, and within 10 minutes they tell you their whole life story, and then they stop and they say, why am I telling you my life story? I don't even know you. And you know, they just need somebody, I think, to listen, but somehow intuitively as human beings we're able to pick up energy. I also feel that, as say somebody that's narcissistic, I don't think they're running around in their mind going, let me look for the next victim. I do believe that they're looking for happiness, but they have a type. They know what the type is. And like you mentioned about other women, I think they're constantly looking for that high from the beginning that they feel, and they have a type. And it seems like a lot of people that are empathic or come from certain relationships, like what you shared at the beginning, they find people like with the characteristics I'm mentioning. I have been in that type of relationship too. I'm not saying it happens to everybody, so I'm trying to be very careful the way I word things here. But it happens. And the reason why I really thought this was a wonderful idea that Nicole had shared off air is because I think it gives somebody a place, judgment free, to share their story and then to share what they experienced, so that, you know what, maybe we can learn from somebody else's experiences and how maybe they were able to heal, right? And
Right.
what happened in their love bombing stage, or with somebody, like you said, that's covert about this, like how I think we can learn from one another is basically what I'm trying to say. So
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's why I want to create this podcast and this new community is when people are in a relationship with a narcissist, whether it is the very beginning, the middle, or even towards the end, the victim of the narcissist has a lot of questions and doesn't understand completely what's going on. Like when I
they
was in
don't.
the relationship, yeah, when I was in the relationship, I saw the flags. I knew what was going on to an extent, but then it wasn't until I got distance that I really saw how toxic it was and what games were
Mm-hmm.
being played. And when you love someone, when you truly love a
Mm-hmm.
narcissist, it is like the most heart-wrenching thing because you start to see the signs that they don't love you back. They can't. They're
They can't. No.
incapable of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
their version of love is not the same of ours. You know,
Mm-hmm.
their version of love is I love you because of what you can do for me. And our version of love is I love that you exist on the planet. I love
Mm-hmm.
that you're here. I love you so much. I
Yeah.
want to protect you. I
Yeah.
love you so much that your success is important to me as my own success, happiness, and well being. I
Mm-hmm.
love you as a person. You know, that's how normal people love. But narcissists are you make me feel happy.
Mm-hmm.
I love the things that you do for me. And that's
Mm-hmm.
where it stops. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to put a lot of energy into protecting you or helping you succeed or feel better or whatever it is because it's just not something that they can do. And so
Mm-hmm.
that is a very slow killing of the soul. And
Mm-hmm.
there's different ways that they do that, but that
Mm-hmm.
message is clear behind almost every action that the narcissist takes is that the narcissist and their persona, their dreams, their goals, their projects, their actions, their plans are more important than yours.
Mm-hmm.
And the victim's pedestal, I think, will help people, regardless of what stage of the relationship they're in, to understand that it's not them, that other people have been through this too. Other people are still going through it, and it'll give them tools and techniques and methods that they can apply, whether they're in the relationship, out of it, and hopefully it will give people who are newly into a relationship or entering one plenty of red flags, so that when they see it, they don't go any further. They can pump the brakes and get out and say, nope, that's not the ride I'm signing up for. That's not what I want. And so the victim's pedestal is very much about giving people a voice. We have to normalize talking about this more. We have to normalize it, because if we don't, victims continue to stay scared, and they stay small, and they never fully heal. They never fully integrate, because they think no one cares. No one's going to understand. That's not true. We do care. We do understand. We want you to
Or they feel guilty, like, why
They
didn't
feel
I
guilty.
see this when I was in the relationship? And
Yeah.
why did I let so much slide? We tend to blame ourselves, and it doesn't matter. And I'm not negating in a narcissistic relationship. I think that we tend to blame ourselves for things when things don't work out, right? And then
Yeah.
when we stand back, like I said earlier, and look at the whole situation with fresh eyes versus it being so close to us, if you will, we're able to see things that we didn't see before. So I think it's such a beautiful situation with this podcast that people are being given a platform to be able to share their stories at different stages, or maybe they're in a relationship like that, but to be able to share and learn from other people's experiences and healing, and a judgment-free platform. I do want to give a shout out to Ashley. I haven't got my glasses on, Ashley. I think it's Detlaf, for your $10 super sticker. Thank you. That's very kind. And I'm going to make sure, I'm going to stop and make sure I call people out, because we really appreciate, the support that you're sending. I'm going to read Auntie Coco's comment too. She said, I feel like I always have a bad energy coming off of me. I'm a nice person. I have no hidden agendas, want others to succeed, etc., but I can't shake a bad feeling. Am I feeling others' energy? I will let you answer that right away, but I have something I just wanted to add very quickly, if that's okay, Nicole.
Yeah, sure.
I am very, very empathic, and I am the type of person. I have a son with severe autism, for example, and he knows that he will come in. For example, he likes to play video games, and his arm is sore. Mommy, my arm hurts. And I'll say, okay, sweetie, maybe I'll do some massage or whatever. And he'll say, feel it, mommy, feel it. Because he knows that I usually close my eyes so I can feel where it is. But I pick up his pain. But the problem is, when you're in a group of people and you got pain, you're going to start feeling pain. You're going to start feeling, maybe like you said, but you're feeling Auntie Coco. You're going to be feeling whatever you might be feeling. Now, this may work for you, may not. It was taught to me by a few different mentors, and it really helps. And I can't wait to hear what Nicole is going to add to this. I know she's got lots. I'm hearing it almost. Is I always ask myself, I take a deep breath and ask, is it mine? Your body will always answer you. If you can quiet your mind. And then once you hear either a yes or no, if it's yours, well, that's something you may feel you may have to deal with. But if it's not, or work with it, heal with it, whatever it may be. But it usually, especially if you're around other people, more than likely you're going to hear no. So the other thing that I do is I attach love and light to it, healing, and I say return to sender. And the thing is, right, their higher self can choose to accept it or not, but I'm sending nothing negative attached, nothing whatsoever. It's just, no, thank you. Not for me. I'd love to hear what you have to say, but that's usually what I do. So
yeah, so that's a great idea. And it definitely works. And a lot of times when people are untrusting of themselves, or they lack confidence, then they're not going to believe what their own mind tells them. So they can ask, is this mine? Yeah, and they're going to get the yes or the no, and they're like,
that was
oh,
my
this
imagination.
is my mind.
I knew I was going to add that, and I swear to God, because a lot of things Nicole has been saying, I've been thinking, I'm going to ask her about that next, and she just says it. That happens quite a bit with people that are intuitive. I find on podcasts, it does. Yeah. I'm glad you went there.
So there's something called muscle testing, but there's also something else you can do. You can kind of use your own body as a pendulum.
Yes, yep. Thank you.
Yep. So what it looks like is you'll get still and you'll ask your body, show me yes. And you might want to close your eyes. So I'm just going to show you already. So my body is a pendulum. It goes yes, it goes forward for yes, backward for no. And if there's no answer, I will just stay still, or I might like topple over to the side a little bit, which is
and mine are to the left and to the right.
Yeah.
Mine are to the left and to the right. And
yeah.
Exactly. And with no answer means is that it's neutral, if you will. It doesn't really require an answer, or there really isn't an answer. Mine is still steadfast. And you could use things like a pendulum or whatever, but when you're in the middle of a grocery store, and you can use this for anything, like you're a whole roll of vitamins and you're not sure, hold them in your hands once you know what your yes or no is, or put them to the, like you said, you go side left to right and ask, is this good for my body? And I knew you were going to have an amazing answer. I'm going to show you guys, this has happened with Nicole so many times. I'm getting goosebumps. It's not cold. That's my sign for truth. So I'm so glad I'm sorry, I probably cut you off. Go ahead. Nicole and I love to talk.
Yes, we do. So there's another one that's pretty easy too. So if you put your hand up like this, so you can just put your arm up. And if your answer is a yes, it'll stay steady. If your answer is a no, it'll start to go down. So if you're asking, is this energy mine? Like when I closed my eyes and asked that, my arm started going down on its own. So I'm not forcing it. So you just focus on your question, and you might even want to close your eyes and put your attention maybe on your third eye, or just see the question as written out in front of your eyelids or behind your eyelids, whatever. See the question, focus on the thing. And if the answer is a yes, again, your arm will stay up. As you hold your arm up, it will stay up. It'll stay strong. But if your answer is a no, your arm will start to go down.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I love that Nicole is such a great teacher too. So you know what? And what I love is each one of us is different. So those are just three quick techniques. And I'm glad because I kept hearing that in my head, because I should explain that I don't hear voices for those of you that haven't met me before. I know that I just know the difference between spirit and myself when you start to do it, right? And it takes a little bit of while to trust it, but you were absolutely right about that. If you're newer to this, because we question it all the time in the beginning, always.
Yeah. If you're new to it, or if you went through a dry spell, because you can go through that. Every gifted intuitive I know, they've gone through a dry spell with their gifts, and they're like, oh my God, what is wrong? Like, I'm never gonna
happen. Like, why is this happening?
Yes. I'm being punished. And it's not that, it's that the universe the universe in your own body will allow your gifts to shut down if there's something else that you need to be paying attention to. Or really, if you're like battling an illness or something, your other gifts will shut down so that you can harness your chi energy and whatnot to heal, or to put it wherever you need it to be. And so that's something that's been interesting too, is I have my rehabilitated intuitives who have gone through that season where they weren't feeling anything, and then they start getting those answers again. They almost don't trust themselves, so it's like they've gone back to kindergarten. I'm like, you've been through this before, you know you can trust this. And it's like building a muscle. If you haven't been to the gym for a while, you start with the 5-pound weights again, and not the 20 pounds.
Oh, thank you, Auntie Coco, for the $5 super chat. She said, thank you, love and light. And the same back to each and every one of you. So thank you. And that's why I know a lot of you haven't been to my show before. I try to involve you because you know what? And I said this to Nicole, I think it was today, is when I'm at a live with somebody, and don't get me wrong, if the comments are flying by, or if it's on slow mode and you still can't read anything, of course, nobody's going to be able to read all the comments. But, there'll be somebody with a really great guest, and I'm like really drawn in, and I've got a question I want to ask them, say like the one you just asked, Auntie Coco. And don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting there because I assume I'm like, get to my question, I matter. I don't mean that. It's just that, you ask it, but you notice that the host never looks at the comments, or ever, like you support them, right? Then after a while, it's like, geez, I love this person and I love their guest, but I kind of want to interact. So I appreciate that you're here. So thank you. I know a lot of you are Nicole's people and the other people that are here. If you're listening, I do want to remind you, if you're just tuning in, you are listening live to the Angel Rock on 105.3 out of New Orleans, Louisiana. And if you want to join in the conversation, you can go over either to as well, because was going to say it and I just realized I haven't, to Guiding Echoes. That is Nicole Antoinette's, my guest tonight, her YouTube channel, or you can come over to our main UPRN channel, which is under UFO Paranormal Radio. And we will also see the comments under the Facebook page under UFO Paranormal Radio as well, because we like your comments, right, Nicole?
Absolutely.
You know what I'm kind of feeling like I want to ask about, because we sort of touched on it a bit today, angels, because you connect quite a bit with angels. And that's why my show is called, one of the reasons why it's called The Angel Rock. So let's talk about them a little bit.
Let's talk about them. So I love working actually with my team of angels, and that means that I actually prefer them. I don't know if you guys can hear the plane or not. Sorry, it's pretty loud. I prefer to work with my team of angels over working with archangels. You know, archangels are kind of the rock stars of the angel world.
They are.
And yeah, and for good reason. I mean, they're mentioned in holy texts. We feel as if we know a little bit more about them because there's something written about them. But we each have our own personal team of angels. Absolutely. And we can lean into them. We can work with them. And they're by our sides 24/7.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I absolutely love working with my angels and getting to know them. They have a wide variety of personalities. Like I have one angel by the name of Logos. Him and I don't really interact that much anymore. But he's very assertive to the point of being rude. And and he already knows this. For a long time, I didn't particularly care for him because he was just so gruff and assertive and to the point. And so one day I was like, can you use some bedside manners? Can you practice a little bit of compassion? So he tried, God bless him, he tried. But when he comes in, he's got this very grounding, tough, masculine warrior energy. And I'm like, you know what? I don't even want to mess with this guy. Like I would not want to be on the wrong side of his temper. Like I wouldn't want him mad at me because he is very, very protective. And we all have that type of angel or angels around us. And it's interesting to me that so many people bypass their own angels and they start working with Michael or Raphael or Chamiel or whoever. And that's good. I mean, that's fine. But you have your own team and you made an agreement with them before you incarnated here that they would be your team. And your energy is blended with them actually more than it is with the archangels. So so I prefer working with my team.
Yeah, but you know what too? I think you made up a really important point here, because there's one of the things that I usually say is whether you believe in angels or not, they believe in you as well as your guides. They have been with you since you took your first breath, including part of your agreements. We are all here for a reason. We've incarnated into this lifetime for a reason. And when we take our last breath, somebody that we recognize, lots of times there's angels as well, but archangels are not the only angels, nor are archangels only the ones that we are familiar with. The numbers are infinite, and we have different angels and different amounts of angels that come in at different periods in our life. We have a medical team from the other side you can call in. And I work with them because I do quite a bit of healing work. I think that I was even doing that as a nurse when I was working. I've hurt my back, so I'm still very active and stay on top of the way of what's going on, or try to, in medicine. But and I'm going to share this right here. I don't think I've ever even told you this, Nicole. I'm writing 3 books. And one of them will be our journey with autism. They all connect, believe it or not. And they're all going to be sort of helping guides for people that are going through experiences like this. I'm very well versed in the paranormal. That's how my introduction, never went looking for, but that's my introduction to my reawakening of my gifts as my adult many years ago, or as an adult. And then the last one, I am collecting stories from mostly nurses because I work quite a bit in palliative care in the community, but collecting stories from nurses of the incredible, amazing, phenomenal things we have witnessed as nurses, especially at the end of life. And I have some incredible stories from people already. So, yeah, but you know what? Angels, so cool. I do want to give a huge shout out to Debbie A. Anderson, Vibrational Energy. Please check her out on here daily, 11 p.m. Eastern, or 11 p.m., 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. She does a quick 10 minutes. It's called Spiritual Breadcrumbs. It's amazing. She's here on YouTube. So check it out. She's here. Um, I didn't know if you wanted to add anything to that, Nicole, because I see somebody else has an interesting question.
No, I'm good.
Okay, so again, and people, I'm not just picking out one person. If you got questions, throw them in here. That's what we're here about, right? I love to teach, you love to teach, and I think it's a great thing to ask questions. So Auntie Coco says, what's the difference between working with your angel and working with your spirit guide? Because I feel I can't differentiate some of them. Sometimes I'll let you have that one, and then because I went first on the last one, you go ahead, and then I'll add anything.
So your angel, so your spirit guide is a very general term. Mm-hmm. And technically your angel is a spirit guide because it is a being in spirit who mm-hmm. guides you, who protects you, who assists you in some way. So mm-hmm. I don't know that it's all that necessary to know the difference between your angels and the other forms of spirit guides. I think the thing that's most important is that you trust the beings that you're working with, that they've proven they're trustworthy, that they have that light and love energy, and that of course they're guiding you towards things that are ethical and positive and not leading you towards any type of path that's self-destructing or sabotaging towards other people. And so I think that's the main thing you want to look at is just like, what are the intentions of the guide? The thing I'm most concerned about with people is when a guide comes in and starts telling people some very weird things that makes them go cuckoo, or they're telling them to do, to do weird things to themselves or to other people. And that's something that has always had me concerned, because I'll get clients once in a while and they'll say, oh yeah, my spirit guide is so great, but he told me this or she said this, and I'm just on the other end of the phone like, what? Like,
what?
No, I don't.
Are you sure that's a spirit guide?
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, the truth is any spirit can call itself a guide. Any spirit can call itself a guide, and not all spirits on the other side are light and love. So that's really what you want to be more mindful of. And as you continue to work with your guides and you are able to differentiate just between them, then as you get to build a relationship with them, they'll probably tell you whether they're an angel or not, or they'll let you know if maybe they were human at some point in time, or if they're from some other dimensional space. So the way to know is just to continue to work with them and build a relationship with them and ask them. They'll tell you.
Yeah, they have no reason to lie to you. And for myself, and it's just me, I've never really been hung up on the name. I've done exactly what you suggested, that it was more about how they felt to me, what they've communicated to me. Like at the beginning of the show, when I had said that I don't hear voices in my head. For myself, I've talked to people who they hear a different voice, every guide or angel they connect with whatever. I know the difference by the way the wording I hear, and it's not the way I speak, and it's always comes through with love and light. One of my guides, somebody actually told me her name, a very good friend of mine, and I just call her the Naggy Spirit Guide, most lovingly. You've heard me say it, because she'll argue with me in my head. Like I'll say, I'm not going to do that, and she'll say, no, I think you should. And then she won't tell me what to do. Even should is a strong word, but she'll just keep gently prodding and reminding me about something. And the beautiful thing is they never will tell you what to do. So I've gotten used to what the energy feels like and how the wording is that I hear. And it's within the mind's eye. That's the best way to explain it. I'm not hearing, and everybody is different how you connect. I always
Yeah.
say how some people come in, maybe a natural born leader, or maybe they're an athlete or a musician. I feel it's kind of the same way with our spiritual gifts, don't you? Like there's one we can access and learn about all of them in a whole world. We can learn for a whole lifetime. I always think this world is, oh my gosh, it's infinitesimal compared to what we experience in the everyday life. I
Right.
consider myself a lifelong learner, but yeah, you can learn to be good at things, but there's always one I feel like we're really, really like that we master it, don't you?
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And it's I don't the world that we live in is so adventurous, even if we don't want it to be.
Yeah, yeah.
and and yeah, and when you were saying you have a spirit that gently nags you, like I have one that will do that too. Like
Yeah.
there was a intuitive nudge that I got today on some action that I could take towards something.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't really sure if I wanted to take that action. So the voice in my head was like, well, how badly do you want XYZ? And it's like, fine, I'll do it.
Yeah, yeah.
But
That would be it. I want to read Mark's comment because I think that's really important. And you said something. Regardless whether I know somebody or not, I go to their pages, I do my research, and there were a few things that you happened to say that I'm trying to call them off the top of my head here that I often say, and one of them is that you hear people that say being an empath is a curse. And I
mm,
always say it's a superpower. And I heard you say that. And
yeah,
that's why I wanted to get to this very quickly. But I realized I didn't quite finish that thought as I was rambling. I don't, I'm not hung up on the name. Was I in the beginning? Oh, heck yes. When is my third eye going to open? What are the names of my guides? What are the
right.
names of my angels? And I don't say that negatively, any judgment in any way or facetiously. I think we all go through that. But as I learned to trust at what I was feeling and what I was hearing for myself, I realized actually, spirit, I'm very visual. They gave me a picture and it may just be unique to me, but they showed me on the other side that what it is, they don't use names.
Right.
It's a human thing. They showed us all as little pinpricks of light, but that are, say, awakening to their gifts or their spirituality or what, we kind of look like those motel signs in the movies when they're driving along a dark highway and it's vacancy, no vacancy kind of thing.
Yeah.
So what they showed me, speaking about the energy, is it's not only angels and guides that can see that motel sign flashing in the dark, if you will. So I was so glad that you brought up about some of the ways to be able to differentiate. So for myself, I've suddenly learned to realize that and it takes time. It takes time to go by feeling. And I'm
Hmm.
going to say I had a crash course because I lived in an extremely haunted house. So it was very easy to tell the difference between negativity and positivity. Hmm. Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Hmm.
It's very easy to tell the difference.
It just feels so icky. Oh,
It does.
it feels
Yeah.
icky. So Mark says I'm an empath and not fond of being around negative, or not fond, I think he meant, okay, of being around negative people because they really drain me. But I love helping people when they are suffering and are going through some bad stuff. I will let you go first. You're my guest. I know you're going to be able to help a lot with that, and I'll add a little bit at the end of it, Nicole.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So, first of all, Mark, I think it's beautiful that you love to help people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the thing to keep in mind is this: there are people who are suffering because they love their stories of suffering. And they're
Oh, yes.
so in love with their stories of suffering that they actually don't want to get better. But
Yep.
they'll say that they do. They'll say that because that's what you're supposed to want, right? You're supposed to want to feel better. But there
Mm-hmm.
are people out there who love the attention that they get from being sick or
Mm-hmm.
being a hot mess. There are
Mm-hmm.
people who thrive on receiving the pity
It
and the
becomes their
attention.
story.
It does. It
Mm-hmm.
become and it's how they end up using their whole life force because
Mm-hmm.
they like that pity, and they learn that if they can get pity from people, they can get more attention. They can maybe get people to cook for them. They can get babied, for lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that it is really important to, first of all, pay attention to the feelings that you get around someone, to pay attention to that. Not every negative person wants to be healed. Negative people on general don't want to get better. If they did, they'd be putting the work in and you'd be seeing some difference. It may happen slowly. We don't
Mm-hmm.
change overnight, but there would be some growth there and you would be feeling something. You'd be
Mm-hmm.
feeling something different from them.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of the things that I think is important to keep in mind, is that if someone around you is draining your energy, then there's one of two things happening. One is that they are someone who loves playing on the pity and whatnot of other people. The second could be that they're so into their trauma mind, their survival mind, that they don't realize that they're grabbing for the lifeboat and sinking it down and dragging it down. When one of the things that lifeguards are taught is that when they go into the ocean to save someone or help someone, that person's flailing around, they have to tell them, calm down, I'm trying to help you. And if that person doesn't calm down, if they keep flailing about, the lifeguard at some point may have to let go so that that person doesn't take the lifeguard down with them. And that's how it can be with different healers and with empaths, is that if someone else is creating this chaos in their own life, it doesn't matter how much you love them or how much you want to help them. If they are responsible for their own chaos and they're making a huge mess, you have to let them go. So there was this great quote that I read a couple days ago, and it said, as a giver, you have to learn how to set boundaries because takers don't have any. I
I
was like,
saw that and I think I saved it.
that's a
I
good
I
one.
loved what you said there. The one thing I would love to add to that is absolutely pay attention. Pay attention. We all know, I use the example of, and I can't remember what show it's from, and when I'm talking to people, say about your aura or your energy field, and some people that maybe haven't heard that term before think it's crazy. In this TV show in particular, it was two gentlemen that did not know each other very well, and one was right in the other guy's face, and the other guy backed up and went, dude, personal space, right? We know this depending on the level of intimacy we have with another human being or animal, because I'd love, if you're good with that, Nicole, to talk about that too, especially because I think what the main thing is just because we're dealing with something that we can't see necessarily, we still have the right to put up boundaries. So say
Yes.
you've got spirits coming all the time or you're feeling energy around you. I am a huge one about protecting your energy. I have a video, I
Yes.
was telling Nicole this, I think when we first met, I have two videos I share on my YouTube channel all the time. One is called How to Create a Love Shield. And I feel because we have nothing to fear, we have to be cognizant and we have to have boundaries. I also feel that love is one of the most powerful emotions that we have. And somebody has always loved somebody or someone in their life. So we usually know what love feels like, right? And it's a great place to
Mm-hmm.
come from. I always say the video takes longer to explain than it does to do, because I like to walk you through while I'm doing it, to create it while we're doing it together, rather than us watching a video and going, what was step 7 again? What did she say? So because you've created it. The
Mm-hmm.
other thing is to be very grounded. I think that's so important because as human beings, we get stressed. I could go on and on about grounding, right? And there's so many ways to do it. It's been around for thousands of years. There was this documentary, I don't know if you've seen it, a couple of years ago, Nicole. It was called Earthing, and it was celebrated like it was this incredible healing new technique. It's been around forever and ever. And it's basically taking your shoes and socks off and getting your feet on the ground, because we're meant to be walking that way. So I love what Nicole said to you about that. Sorry, I'm going back to your comment here. We got quite a few names, Mark. And I love that you help people too. But again, I think, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. I don't think we ever talked about this, Nicole, but I think it's so important when we're working within the spiritual realm to be able to protect our energy, call in our angel team. We can set up things like, it was called a gatekeeper with one of my mentors, if you will. We can
Yeah.
ask one of our guides if there's something you don't want to deal with or it's becoming too much. You can do that, right? Mm-hmm.
Yes, you can. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's so I had this interesting experience
I love
a
it.
few years ago where
Mm-hmm.
I kept getting psychic hits on things that didn't involve me, didn't involve my friends, psychic hits that I could not influence in any way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't make sense to me as to why I was getting these psychic hits. And what I learned, it's like when you're psychic, when you have that ability, you're an antenna. And so all this energy is going
Mm-hmm.
past the antenna, and your antenna just starts picking up random things.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I tuned into was the Boston Marathon bombing.
Oh, wow.
The day before that happened, all of a sudden in my mind's eye, I saw an explosion. And I kind of laughed at it like, that's random, that's weird, because I didn't know what it meant. And then the next day, that explosion happened, and it was like, holy crap, like, what the heck is that about? And things like that kept happening, where I was having like synchronicities, or I was having foresight of things that like I said, I couldn't stop. And there was no other context, so I didn't understand what the message was. And then a few days later,
Mm-hmm.
something would happen, be like, oh, that's why I thought of this, and that's why I got that vision or whatever. But it was also frustrating because it's like, you're going about your day, and then this thought invades your mind, and you're like, what am I supposed to do with that? So I finally spoke to my guides and my higher self and my own intuition. I was like, listen, if it's not helpful, I don't want it. I don't need to see it. I don't need to hear
Yeah.
it.
Excuse me.
And so as all this information would come in, and again, that was kind of my thing. If it doesn't affect me, if it doesn't affect my friends, if it's not going to affect anyone in my Guiding Echoes community or other communities, I don't want it. I don't need to hear about it. There's
Or
nothing I
if you
can do
can't do
about it.
anything about it, like you said, you
Exactly.
can't do anything about it.
Can't do anything
Mm-hmm.
about it. So when I'd start to get those hits on certain things, I would almost close it down immediately and be like, nope, not helpful. So, not helpful. And so eventually I think that they started to catch those thoughts and whatnot before they got to me, because that doesn't happen anymore. Thank God.
Yeah, so I've had so many people ask myself that I wanted to build on that a little bit. I've had so many people ask me, well, can I do this or can I do that? And what I say to them is, if you're coming from a good space of love and light, it involves yourself and it involves your guides. The sky's the limit. Like when I talked
Yeah.
about, for example, the love shield. Well, how often do I have to do it? Like when do I have to do it? And that's a good question. How long do you want it to run for? Ask your gut.
Yeah.
They're here to help you succeed and have the most incredibly abundant, wonderful life. That is why they are here, to help you and guide you. They can't tell you what to do. They can work more closely with you. But there was a comment here. I saw your comment, Zach, years ago. I imagine Robin Williams in my mind while at work. A day later is when he died. That's sad. But I know, Zach, you have had some incredible experiences with a mutual friend of ours, kind of psychically past life things. But that's what happens, right? We all kind of find our people we're kind of meant to be around and work with. Now, Ashley had said, I have used my gifts to find items and bring them back to me. After a lot of prayer and practice, my wallet I lost last week. I knew it was coming back to me, and it did. I love to hear that. But there was one thing I did want to add next, Nicole. She said, recently I have been communicating with animals on the other side, and it's getting overwhelming. I'm so glad that you're doing that. That's a real interest, I know, for myself. But we were talking, we both love animals. And she says they are near me daily, and I consistently have to ask them to move on. Not sure about what to do next. And Nicole is my guest. I shouldn't have jumped in there the first time. I was so
Oh,
excited
it's
about this
fine.
question.
You can jump in as often as
No,
you
you
want.
go
I think
ahead.
Yeah, in fact, you can take this question.
I will then. Okay. So this is a comment. This is a conversation I've had with quite a few people that I work with, because this happens a lot. And again, in lifetime, right here, regular every day, right? You put your 8 hours in at work, or maybe it's 4 hours, maybe it's an hour. It doesn't matter what it is, right? Once you're off the clock in your home, you are off the clock. Now, if we're constantly called you and kept saying, you got to come in, you got to come in, I need this, and they're calling you all the time, or they're doing whatever they are doing, they're making your life miserable. You, by rights, do have the ability to say no, again, about boundaries. So, one of the suggestions I use, and don't get me wrong, I can literally hear, well, yeah, I might get fired, I might, whatever. We're not even going to go there with that. Just by design, we're going to say they really don't have the right to be doing this in a perfect world. But there's a reason why I said it that way. Because what I have found with spirit, and we've seen some people say on TV shows and whatever, that I can't go out for dinner, I can't go anywhere, spirits everywhere, I got to eat, I got to blah, blah, blah. That really could be their life. It's not my job to judge. But we have the ability to say to whomever we are working with, or if there are human spirits coming through, or people on the other side with a message for their loved ones, or animals, is whenever I took it off because you hear it on my microphone. I wear this all the time. I wear this necklace, for example. I'm open for business, or this ring, or I like this candle, whatever it may be. You get to pick it. But when it's done, I'm off the clock, okay? And you can do that. There may be really pushy spirits that try to do that, but you can say no, or ask for some assistance with your guides. But again, it's about boundaries. I understand that in the beginning we're trying to figure all this out, so this is something to be able to work on, right? But I found for myself, anyways, the people that I've worked with, that once they set those boundaries up, that usually, not always, I have somebody in the chat here, I'm not going to call them out, that they have put their boundaries up. They're an incredible medium, and they still have spirits. I work with her quite closely, actually. And in the beginning, one was very, 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 very persistent. And again, she had to be very, very persistent back. But on the whole, starting with that would be something to try with them, and even letting them know, because a lot of people get woken up during the night too, and saying, hey, I really need my sleep. My guides, could you help me with this? I need some rest. I'd love to hear your thoughts, because you do mediumship as well as I do, Nicole. So go ahead. I know I can feel it. She's got a great suggestion.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that everything you said is perfect. You want to put up those boundaries for that, because you don't want to be bombarded by animal spirits, any type of spirits, really. Because it is distracting. Even if they are in spirit, they're still in your head. That's the thing. They're still in your head, and your mind and your heart are the most important commodities that you have. And so when things are invading your mind, that is very distracting, and it's not good for your health. And so being able to set those boundaries and let them know directly that you're off the clock, or ask your guides and angels to, kind of, I want to say, organize spirits as they're coming to you, so you can give your guides and your angels your open hours, and let them know when you're open for business, closed for business. Let them know what you will accept and what type of spirits you don't want near you, and let them funnel them through. Let them organize, and let them bring them in. The other thing real quick that I was going to say, what was I going to say? One of the things that I've done, and this helps a lot, is you can ask your angels to gently guide these animals or spirits to where they're supposed to be. And that's actually part of my daily routine. My morning routine is when I pray in the morning and I'm praying for protection. I'll say, if there's any energies or entities that aren't supposed to be here, and this is me talking to my angels, please gently guide them to where they're supposed to be. And we say gently so that the spirit or entity hearing me say this prayer doesn't get offended, because I'm not kicking them out and be like, get out in the cold.
Get rid of them. Get rid of them. Clean house.
So I'm asking them, please gently guide them, which is my way of saying be compassionate, be kind, gently, lovingly guide them to where they're supposed to be. So if you start your morning and you set that intention from the very beginning, you may not have any issues because you've already given that task to your angels and they're open for it. And plus, angels, for the most part, they don't usually interact and intercede unless we ask them to.
Yes.
So we have to keep that communication going with them on a daily basis.
I want to read it. Thanks, Nicole. That was amazing. And I love what you had to say. I agree 100%. Now, Davey said, yes, after years of working as a medium, the other side just instinctively knows my availability. So that helps a lot. Great show, hon. Love, Nicole. So that was so great. I'm so glad you're here, sweetheart. He's a friend of mine, so I'm so glad he's here. He's an amazing medium, amazing, an animal communicator. This is an interesting, I hope we didn't plan what we were going to do, and I should share with you guys as my show. What I do is I connect with spirit before the show, and I always say, okay, where are we going with this? And I don't know, I think we've got some great questions here, don't you, Nicole?
Oh, yeah, we always get great questions.
Yeah, because this is an interesting question from Tanya. She said, I've seen a fur family member pass away in my dreams prior to her passing. This was in 2008, and then she passed in 2009. What kind of gift is that?
Well, I would say that's a psychic gift. I mean, if we want to go old school, we could call it prophecy. But there are a lot of people who have incredible dreams, and I feel like if you get messages in your dreams, I feel like that's a form of clairvoyance.
I do.
Yeah. So if you're able to dream the future, and especially if it's happening consistently, that's a type of clairvoyancy for sure.
I just had a lady on, and her name is completely slipped my mind. I will put it in the description for the show, and I'll share it with Nicole so you can see this. Now, she was raised in a household where psychic abilities and what have you, like she said, it was normal. She grew up in the UK, and she's quite well known over there. I'm kicking myself. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, and she's lovely. But what she was talking about, and she'd written a book about all the information our dreams will give us. And the only person, because a lot of people like to come to someone like myself or Nicole or somebody that does that kind of work specifically to analyze someone's dreams. Our dreams come from our subconscious, from our higher self, which knows all the answers, believe it or not. So the only person that's really going to be able to best interpret it is yourself. Now, I am right in my own bedroom. I'm going to show you this so you guys know I'm telling you the truth. I keep
because we all thought you were lying, so I'm glad you're showing us proof.
Yes. Well, they don't know me. This is okay. I have this by my bedside. I have a pen. I have crystals. I have all kinds of crazy. Well, it's not crazy. I love all of it stuff. So I want my sleeping space to be a wonderful place where it's got good energy and what have you. So that's why I have it. But I keep this at my bedside. I have another couple notebooks down there with pens because sometimes spirit will wake me up and tell me this is urgent. I need you to write it down because I'm working on a few things with a couple other clairvoyant mediums right now that we're getting some very interesting information that we're not necessarily asking for, but it's coming in bits and pieces. But the other reason why is before our feet hit the ground to run to the bathroom or whatever we do, we're in that sweet spot, if you will. We're not quite awake, but we're not quite asleep. Same thing when we fall asleep. A lot of information can come through then, but I always find by the time, well, not everybody it happens to, but by the time our feet hit the ground and we go grab our coffee or whatever we do, we forget about 75% or sometimes more of the information that's come through. So I just grab a pen and I just make notes quick. Jot, 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 jot. But the longer we do it, we may see some patterns. We may see information like what you were mentioning, Tanya. It could be a whole bunch of things like that. So the patterns start to evolve. That's what this lady was talking about with her book. and all the messages that we get. And I don't know about you too, Nicole, I'm sure you're going to agree with this, that especially when we've lost something, especially like a loved one or, a fur baby, pet, it's natural to grieve, which is going to lower our vibrational energy. And sometimes it makes it more difficult maybe for the loved one to connect. They're there, they're sending us signs, they're sending us all kinds of things. It's a natural phenomena we go through as humans. And there's no timetable, it's individual. But my whole point of saying that is the easiest way for them to reach us is through our dreams, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, and the reason for that is because your conscious mind is shut down.
Open.
Yep. And so, that part of your mind that likes to question everything is shut down for the evening, for the night while you're sleeping. And so now your subconscious mind and your higher conscious mind are open. And so it's so much easier for those messages to get through.
Absolutely. So if that's something that resonates with you when you're hearing that, try it for a week or maybe, a couple nights. It usually takes longer than a couple nights though, because we dream about different things and we have so many different dreams. But just jot it down like a word or whatever. And then when you go back, you might recognize that maybe you are getting a lot more information in your dreams than you ever thought you were, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. I agree.
So David says, Nicole and Lorilei, he says, does this ever happen to you? Roadkill sometimes reaches out after I say a prayer for them if I drive by.
I've never had that happen.
I have not had that happen, but what I am hearing from Spirit is, and we see this, I've seen this with working, and I know you've worked with the paranormal as well too, Nicole, that if somebody passes away very quickly or very tragically, sometimes they don't realize that they've passed. Right. And it's terrifying for them. I've worked with quite a few spirits like that. And think about it. You're going along in your everyday life. You think you're fine. And all of a sudden, nobody can hear you. You can't communicate with everybody, but everything looks normal. You go back to your regular house. Strangers are moving in. That's a whole different show. But you can see why not everything is like they like to show on TV, that it's demonic, right? What would you do if you didn't realize you passed away? And somebody's moving in your house and then they start ripping it apart to renovate and they've gotten rid of all your stuff, right? So with the road, what I'm talking about with the animals on the side of the road, maybe they haven't realized they've passed. Maybe they realize they can communicate with you, David. So you have the option. Maybe they need some help. I believe animals cross over into the other side, whatever you want to call it. I call it home. So maybe they need some help. That would be my thoughts. Maybe they need some help crossing over.
Could be. Mm-hmm. And then he also just said, I always say a prayer to thank them for coming here, and they always reply with gratitude. So that's sweet.
I didn't even see that yet. That's so awesome. Mark from England was here and he said, great show. I know I saw that he said that. And he said, thank you. He had to run. I know it's late over there, Mark. So thanks for tuning in. Did you see anything that lit up for you here? Or why don't we talk about this goes by too quick, you guys. So you're going to see Nicole and I do things a lot more often. We've already planned to be on each other's shows before the end of the year. And I won't say anything else, but I'm sure you're going to see a lot more of us together. But let's talk about your podcast, because I have some people that tune in regularly here and you're newer to our network. I'm so grateful you've come. So let's talk about some of that and we can get back to a few more questions maybe.
All right. So the Guiding Echoes, so Guiding Echoes, like I said, already mentioned, it's the 10-year anniversary this month. I believe the official date is, I think it's the 21st. I can't quite remember.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to double.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. And it's been through quite an evolution since it first started. Because when it first started, I was just doing tarot. And through tarot, my mediumship abilities opened up. And then I learned Reiki, which really seemed to put my mediumship abilities on steroids. They went through a dark night of the soul sort of thing.
Oh, wow.
And then mediumship and everything opened up again, but it started changing. And that's one of the things that's really interesting about the spiritual journey is there's so much evolution in it. There's so much evolution. So you'll never be in one place. And one of the things that's interesting, and Lorilei, you can tell me if you've experienced this too. It's like almost, it feels like once I get a handle on a certain gift or ability, like I'm like, okay, I trust this. I know that it changes.
It changes, it evolves.
Yeah.
And you must have been reading my mind, because mediumship is one of my newer gifts. And I'll share very, very quickly what happened. I always say I've been incredibly blessed in my nursing career to be there hundreds of times at the beginning of life, being a NICU nurse. I then started working out in the community, and a lot of the bulk of my work, there were many other things, but I did palliative care, end of life care, and I would go out into homes at the middle of the night or whenever to be there. And I feel so deeply honored that a family and my patient wanted me to be there as they transition from this lifetime, and I'll say across the veil. I'm trying to be respectful, whatever people wish to call it. And excuse me, I'm coughing away here. I got a tickle in my throat. So I had a very unusual thing happen to me. I worked in the NICU, and I had a set of twins with this mom. I didn't have them. They were her babies, obviously. They were born at 28 weeks, a little boy and a little girl. The little boy, we used to always pray for little girls to be born, because little boys when that happens are much more fragile. And he had so many complications. When I went out into the community, he was on my caseload. He had had cerebral palsy and really required a lot of care. And he was very stable. I used to run an area, so I transitioned him to this wonderful registered nursing assistant, it was called at the time, and we worked closely together, but she was the one that would go in every day. Anyways, I hurt my back, long story short. It had to be probably 10 years later, and I happened to be out shopping at Christmas. I ran into his mom. And she hugged me, because we always got along great. And I loved all my patients. I love being a nurse. And as I hugged her, I heard, and I'm probably going to start to cry, and I'm not an easy, I don't cry easily, but I heard, "Tell my mommy I love her."
Aww.
And yeah. And I didn't say anything. I just kind of stiffened up, like, where did that come from? And then she told me that he had passed away a couple months before. God, I hate this. I never cry on my show. And I've got goosebumps again. And
I got them too.
And I just said to his mom, I said, "You're not going to believe this." I said, I already know. I said, "I want to tell you something." And I don't even know why I said it, because I'd never had that experience before. I literally just heard, "Tell my mommy I love her." So we had this wonderful, beautiful exchange. And then that weekend, I don't even know how they got my number. A patient I talked to in 10 years called me, and it told me that their husband passed away, and a few messages started coming through. And I realized, holy cow, I always take something that happens in a very short period of time as a sign from spirit that needs further investigation, right?
Yeah.
We do. And so that's how it kind of opened up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, sorry, we didn't get on your podcast, but Nicole and I do this. We talk about a million different things at the same time. So tell people, what do you do with your podcast?
Well, actually, before that, I wanted to talk about an experience I had that was similar but different to yours. Yeah.
Please do.
So a few years ago, when I was living in Corona, California, there was this woman that I used to pass every time I went on my morning walks, and sometimes on afternoon walks. It was weird, because it was like she was always there when I was there. And her and I struck up a friendship. And she had a son, I think he was 20 or 21. And so sometimes I'd see him on the walks too. And we both had dogs, so our dogs got along, and they played with each other while we were talking. So formed a nice friendship with this woman. One day I'm going for a walk, and she was clearly very sad. And so she comes up and she talked to me like all the life was gone from her eyes, like something was clearly wrong. And she had told us that her son had been in an accident
Oh
He
my
had
gosh.
passed away just it had just been a few days ago. It was just a few days ago. And so she was saying that she just felt so lost, and so she's still going for her walks, but she still can't believe it. Like she's still waiting for her son to come home.
Mm-hmm.
And so when she told me this, of course I hugged her and told her I was so sorry, and continue. And then, later on went on my walk. And while I was walking, her son in spirit started talking to me and said, "Can you go tell my
Oh.
mom I'm here? Can you tell her I'm here?" Well, the problem is that I was in a relationship with a man. He was a malignant narcissist, basically a sociopath. And he didn't believe in all the stuff that I did. And when I did mediumship in front of him, he would get so mad at me, like so mad. I would get yelled at and called
Oh.
names. Like it was horrible. So I always had to keep my gifts as much as possible under wraps around him. Like he was okay with tarot, but he did not like me doing mediumship at all. And so the son asked me if I could get a card for his mom for Mother's Day and fill out the card. And I was like, I can't do that. I don't know how she'll accept it. Like I can't do that. I'm so sorry. And he kept wanting, for days he kept asking me to talk to his mom on his behalf. And I was like, I'm sorry, I can't. I don't know how she'll take it. I can't. And so finally I was like, all right, look, I promise I'll talk to her, but you have to give me some time and help me figure it out. Well, a few months later, I ended up getting out of that relationship with that man, and I ended up moving out of the city. Eventually, moved out of state, and 2 years later, I ended up moving back to that same city, that same neighborhood in Corona, and went for a walk at that neighborhood. Now, I didn't went for a walk in that neighborhood at that same park. Didn't see this woman there, and ended up walking back home, but turned on the wrong street. So as I'm walking down the street, there's this woman outside on her yard, and she stops and looks at me, and she's like, "Nicole," and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" So she's like,
Oh
"Oh
my
my gosh, where have
gosh.
you been? How are you?" So she hugged me, and we started talking, and she was talking about how she was still incredibly depressed. And so we started talking, and then she's like, so I know something about you now. And I'm like, well, what's that? And she's like, about a year ago, a friend of mine sent me a video and said, here, you need to watch this. Well, it was the What Happens When You Die video that I had made on my YouTube channel. And she was like, oh my gosh,
Wow.
I know this girl. So she was telling me how much those videos had helped her. And of course, her son came by, and, in spirit. So I was able
Oh.
to talk to her a little bit. So like I kept my promise,
Oh.
but it seemed like such a divine thing that, I've known this neighborhood like the back of my hand. I've walked it all the time. For me to walk home and take the wrong street and run into her, like that was completely divine. And I still don't understand how I even went down the wrong street. I still don't even understand how that happened. I don't remember going down the wrong street, but after I'd been walking there for a while, I'm like, none of
Wow.
this looks familiar. Where
Where
am I?
am I?
I think the universe somehow plucked me up and put me over there, but it was really interesting. And so I remember talking to a friend of mine about that, and she was like, you made a promise to spirit, and they made sure you kept it. Maybe the reason you had to go back to that town was
Mm-hmm.
just for that, and
Mm-hmm.
that could very much have been it.
Mm-hmm. But you know what? And again, we were talking about this earlier in this show that as human beings, we want to try and figure things out. And when it happens and we see the results of how things have played out when we look back, how we never in a million years would have saw it coming. You wouldn't have saw that coming. Like you said, you
No.
lived there. How did you end up on this street?
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've had weird Twilight Zone type things happen like that to me quite a bit, where I'm like, how did I end up here? Like, I know I took the right street.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I had something like that happen today, an error I made. Remember with the scheduling I shared
Oh,
with
yes,
you?
yes, yes,
And I
yes.
never do that. I had done it once. And I kept saying to myself, how could you do that? Like you don't do stuff like that. Because I did have a guest book for tonight. She's coming next week. But I thought, oh my goodness, I've never really talked to her. Like, what will she think? And I kept hearing Spirit say, she's going to be okay with it. It's just what she needs. So I messaged her, and she didn't want to message me and tell me that she had a conference today. And she was so worried that she wasn't going to make my show in time. Meanwhile, it was a different guest that's been on my show before. I hope this isn't too confusing. I won't go on too long about it. But she had messaged me she's not feeling well. So if you can send her healing, or anybody that is not feeling well, and all you have to do is think healing and send them love. You know what? You can do that for anybody. You don't have to have any special abilities. And I send that out to anybody that needs it, that hears this, or maybe somebody extended through who's listening. Anyways, she had messaged me yesterday and said, I can't be on your show meeting today. So instead of me not looking at the calendar, I figured she had the right date, and it wasn't the right date. It was a big screw up. Long story short, okay, I contacted this lovely lady, and she didn't want to contact me and say, oh my goodness, I don't know if I'm going to be on time. I might be late, whatever. What am I going to do? What I'm trying to say is Spirit made it all work out. Right? Like you ending up on
Yep.
the wrong street, me.
Yep.
And I was talking to Michelle last night. And I go, hey, you want to hang out with me tomorrow night? Thinking I was just going to have a hangout by myself. It worked out exactly the way it was meant to work out, is what I'm saying.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's fun when things like that happen. And it's funny how our ego, like you kept saying, I don't do things like that. And you
I
were feeling
know.
so bad. Now it's totally just like the ego. Because it's so
Uh-huh.
funny how I think those of us who are sensitive will make like the smallest mistake, but in our
Mm-hmm.
mind it's like this huge thing,
Yep.
like, oh my
Mm-hmm.
God, this person's gonna think I'm a flake. They're never
Yep.
gonna want to talk to me
Yep.
again. They're gonna
Mm-hmm.
tell everyone not to come onto my show.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. She's going to think she's never met me before. She doesn't even know who I am, that I probably do this all the time. Because we all
Right.
have this inner dialogue and voice. And I swear, we are worse to ourselves than we could be well, some people, well, that's a different show. But
That's
what
a
I
different
mean,
story.
generally, most people would never talk to you the way our inner voice is.
Seriously. That's very true.
Okay, so
So
let's get onto your podcast, because we're running out of time, girl. And I knew this was
yeah,
going to happen. We got about 25 minutes left,
okay.
and I want people to find you and listen to you, and because you're awesome.
So the guiding echoes at this point, I don't consider it a show. It's a community. It's a community, and it is a community for
Yeah.
people who are seeking spiritual guidance, and usually those people are pretty intuitive themselves. And so
Mm-hmm.
my goal with guiding echoes is to teach people to accept, embrace, and enhance their own psychic abilities
Mm-hmm.
in that order.
I love it.
Because you have to accept your abilities before you can embrace them, and you want to embrace them before you can enhance them. And the reason that this is so important to me is because I speak to numerous people from all over the world who know that they have some type of gift and some type of sixth sense, and sometimes they can put a name to it, sometimes they can't,
Mm-hmm.
but they often live in family units or in communities where they feel unsafe talking about their
Yeah.
abilities, and so they either want to shut them down, or they're looking for a safe place to explore them and to
Mm-hmm.
express them. And so I'm not the place to go to if you want to shut them down. I'm the place to go to if you want to learn how to express them and how to open them. One of the things that is fascinating, though, is as you learn to enhance your abilities, that gives you way more control over them, which means that you usually can shut them down.
Mm-hmm.
My gifts are almost always shut down unless I want them to be open. Now, of
Mm-hmm.
course, there's exceptions to the rule where one of the things that's funny with me is I have synchronicities almost every day with weird little things, and those
Mm-hmm.
are fun for me, so I don't mind those,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to the Boston, the Boston Marathon bombing.
Yeah.
I don't need to see things like that. Fun little, like, for example, oh my God, this was so weird. So a few nights ago I had a dream about log cabin syrup, and I remember
Oh my
waking
gosh.
up like, why would I think about that? That is the most random, bizarre thing to dream about. I'm like, man, when did I even have that last? I was probably a kid.
Yeah.
2 days later, just 2 days later, I walk out of my room, look at the kitchen, and there's 2 bottles of log cabin syrup there on the counter. And I'm like, what? And so I looked at my roommate, the person I'm staying with, I'm like, what's this? And she's like, oh, it's expired syrup. I had to take it out of the cupboard yesterday. She's like, I've had them longer than I should have. And I was telling her, she believes in this stuff. I'm like, I just had a dream about this like last night or night before or whatever it was. I think it was a couple nights before now that I think about it. But like those type of things are so fun. And then even though Family Guy is a pretty offensive show, I actually think it's pretty funny. So I do watch
I think
Family
it's hilarious.
Guy. Oh, it's so funny. There's some jokes where I think they go too far, but I just kind of like bypass it because I love all the pop culture humor in there.
Yeah.
But I have synchronicities with Family Guy almost all the time.
Oh, so there are tons if you dig. There are tons actually, depending on who's observing it and interpreting it. But I'd love to hear, what do you mean you have synchronicities? People are going, how could you have synchronicities without one?
I know it's the weirdest thing. So I had one just yesterday and can't even remember what it was, but it'll be something like I'll be talking to a friend about a certain topic, and then I'll watch Family Guy that night and they'll be talking about that same thing, or they'll make a joke about that same thing. It is so bizarre. It happens almost all the time.
I love it. So whomever is working with you on your spiritual team knows you have a great sense of humor, right? They know you're going to see it, you're going to pick up on it. So there you go, right? Synchronicities. Most of us have been doing this a while. I usually say there are no coincidences, right?
Right.
So yeah. I pay attention. Like, I really believe that there's signs around us all the time. How many people out there in the chat have gone on about numbers that you notice, the clock, 111, 11. No, but I'm sure there's tons. I hear about it from the people I work with all the time. And I think the meaning is different depending on the person that's seeing it and when you're seeing it and maybe what's going on in your life. Or have you ever noticed when you're driving and you're thinking about something, or maybe you're sad, or maybe you're maybe no matter, it could be any emotion, and all of a sudden the perfect song comes on and the lyrics are perfect. Or I really believe this, where I'm trying to go with this, don't you, that spirit is constantly communicating. Small little synchronicities, like you said.
Yeah. Well, there was a time where I was going through a friend breakup. It was a friend breakup, so not a romantic relationship, but a friend breakup, because I found out that this person had lied to me about a number of things. And that's a form of, in psychological term, they'll call it gaslighting, because when someone's lying to you about a lot of things, they're trying to get you to they're trying to change their reality and change your view of reality, and it can be very confusing. And so there was a point where I was driving in my car and I was like, does this person even realize how much he's lying? Like, is that does he really think he's telling the truth? Like, what is going on? And then the song Pretender by the Foo Fighters came on.
I love it.
And I was like, that is just too perfect.
Yeah, you'll usually get some kind of confirmation. And I think the beauty in that too is if you're able to, sometimes we have busy lives and we can't do it, but if you can spend a few minutes in the morning, like you said, developing something that resonates with yourself to set your day off on a good note. And then at nighttime, reviewing your day, right? What did I love best about it? Maybe there's some synchronicities, and journaling's a great way, I believe, anyways, right?
Yeah, journaling's great.
I love
you and I are going to be talking about a lot of this stuff in a future program.
Yes, I know we are. I'm dropping little hints here. You're going to be seeing more and more of the two of us doing some things together. And I hope, well, not I hope, I know, I really believe things happen for a reason. And when we, the same thing I've been really trying to accept, because it's hard, right? We want things to happen when we want them to happen. But I've been trying to repeat affirmations, so important, right? Even though our brain might not believe it, our subconscious hears it and absorbs it, that things happen when they happen because it's the perfect time for them to happen, right?
Oh, yeah.
So So you've got a big guest coming on tomorrow night.
I do. Oh my gosh,
Yes.
I've been geeking out
Mm-hmm.
so bad
Yes.
since I booked her. So her name is, oh man, Helen. It's not the easiest name for me to pronounce. Dr. Helene Webday. I
Mm-hmm.
hope I said that right. I should have put it on a card right here, an
I
index
put you
card.
on the spot. I didn't. Well, look, I can
That's
remember, and I
okay.
love this guest I had on about the dreams. So there you go.
There
Mm-hmm.
you go. So she is amazing. She is the lead researcher of the Institute of Noetic Science. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with Institute of Noetic Science, also called IONS, I
Mm-hmm.
highly recommend you check out their website.
Mm-hmm.
They are the pretty much the only scientific organization that is actually studying and researching things like channeling,
I love it.
mediumship, um, clairvoyance, clairaudience, dreams of the future. You know, all of that, all of these psychic, mystic abilities,
Mm-hmm.
and they run all these different studies and tests on them. And she wrote an amazing book called The Science of Channeling. I
I
read
love
it
it.
once all the way through already. It's packed with so much information. It's got numbers, it's got data, which I love because I'm a geek like that. I just wish I could retain it. You
I
know, I'll read it
know.
and I'm like, this is amazing. And I'm highlighting almost everything. Like, oh
Yes.
man, this is good information. And then it's like, the next day I can't remember what I read in the last chapter.
Yeah.
So I'm going through and I'm rereading it. Actually, there's still quite a bit I remember from the book. But for
Mm-hmm.
those of you, I think it's so brilliant because for those of you who are intuitive but also analytical, or for
Mm-hmm.
those of you who are tired of hearing people say, well, that's not backed by science.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it
It
is. It
is. Mm-hmm.
absolutely is. So Ions is fantastic. Ions,
Mm-hmm.
I wish more people were aware of it. I wish more people were funding it. I wish more people were donating to it because they are being they're being kind of shut down by other journals. Other journals don't want them to publish their findings because they simply don't believe in it, and
Mm-hmm.
so they talk about that. So she talks about that in the book, how they had this amazing study on, I think it was telepathy. Don't quote me on that. I think that's what it was on though. And so they wanted to publish their findings, and this big journal shut them down and said,
Aw.
we're never going to publish anything like that. And the board, one of the board members said, I will do everything in my power to block anything that comes through even close to this, because we should not be wasting money on this type of experiments, or this type of, this type of beliefs basically. And so that goes against the very fundamental principles of science, because science is all about exploring and finding the truth and learning if things are
And
possible, and if they're
asking
possible, why.
questions. Yeah, and asking
Absolutely.
questions.
Yep.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So it's really fascinating. It's really fascinating to read the studies they've done, the findings that have shown up in the different tests and whatnot that they've done in their labs. And it's such a great book. So Ions is fantastic. Again, I would recommend that people go check out their website. They have free webinars that they do. They have free thought experiments. It is so absolutely amazing. So yeah, my guest tomorrow is Helene. I don't know if I'm saying the name right. I'm sorry, guys. But yeah, having the lead researcher of Ions on is definitely very exciting for me. So yeah, she's going to be a great guest. And
Yeah.
for those of you who are wanting scientific validation or proof, be sure that you tune in to tomorrow's show. Bring your questions, guys. You know that I answer,
Mm-hmm.
I ask my guests your questions on
Mm-hmm.
my show. So bring your questions. And that hour is going to go by so fast. I just know
Oh,
it.
wow. Yeah, you're
It's
gonna
going to
have
go
to
by
have her
so
back.
fast.
You're gonna have
Yeah.
to have her back for sure.
Yes.
So I wanted to read Yolanda's comment. She said, I scheduled time off work for tomorrow to be at your show, so I'll be able to
Oh,
tune in.
great.
Nicole, she said, I'm very interested in ions now. And Leah said, hi, just came across this channel. I have started to read tarot and really enjoy it, but it's quite hard to remember everything. Do you have anything to add with that?
It is hard to remember
It is.
everything. And I actually have a tarot course that will show you how to read tarot quite easily. So if you go to my website, guidingechoes.com, I think it's still there. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, because I went through it. Well, I'm revamping my website right now, and that might be one of the things that I've redone. So here's the thing with tarot. There's this one game that you can play that's so much fun. You can play it on your own. I call it the flash game. So what you do, and for those of you listening to this, take note, this is a really easy game. If you want to learn how to play tarot, you're going to love this. It's so easy. So you're going to get your tarot cards. I want you to remove all the court cards, and the court cards are the pages, knights, queens, and kings. Put those to the side. We're not going to play with them for this exercise. Put them to the side. Shuffle your cards. Go through shuffle your cards and have them face down, have the pile face down, and lift one card up and say the first thing that comes to mind when you look at the image, and then put it back down.
Cool.
You do that through all of the cards, because that's your intuition coming up with the words. So you go through it as fast as you can. If you are absolutely stumped on a card, don't spend more than 5 or 10 seconds on it. Just put it down and go to the next one. What happens is your subconscious mind and your brain is continuing to work to find the answer to that card in the background. And so every time you do this little game, you're going to get better at it. You're going to end up having your own unique keywords for every card in the deck. And then you'll end up having your own language with tarot. So try not to get too caught up in what people tell you every card should be. Like, for example, the Seven of Swords is traditionally known as the thief card. Like, people see that now, they're like, okay, this means someone's trying to take something from you. I have a very different interpretation of the card. Every time I see the Seven of Swords, I always see it as, hey, you're taking your power back from a situation. Great job. That is what that card has always meant to be. And when it's in reverse, to me, it means that you're in a power struggle. Like, you're trying to take your power back, but you can't. You're in a power struggle. But if every tarot book that you read will tell you this is the thief card, like, this is the card that means there's someone's trying to take something from you, and I don't see it that way. So that's my own interpretation. And every time that card has come up and I've read it that way, it's been true, because tarot and I have we have a love language. We have a secret love language between the two of us. It's a beautiful affair. So
you're reading my mind. I was just going to say that, but not as beautifully as you. If you set the intention, kind of like we talked about earlier, your guides, your angels, they want you to succeed. So like you said, you got your love language. That's what it means for you. So you're not going to give the wrong reading to somebody. If the person is meant to get that message, that card will come up, because that's your interpretation, right?
Exactly. Yep. So as you play the flash card, just play it a few times, and don't worry about whether you're repeating the same word for several cards. Don't even worry about it. It's a game. It's a game. This is fun. You're just getting to know your cards. And then after you've done it a few times, get a pen and paper or your Word document or whatever you want to write on. And after you've done this, maybe, 5-10 times, start writing down your keywords. So start putting a little more time into that, because by that time you've gone through the entire deck, except for the court cards, a few times. And now you have a better understanding of how you're reading those cards. So now you can take your time going through them. So you might pull over the Tower card. Maybe the Tower card for you means renovation or big surprise. And so you would write that down on your journal. And so now you have all of your keywords and all of your interpretations for those cards, and you never, ever, ever even had to crack open a book.
I love it. Because I often say that with crystals, because I'm a crystalaholic. I joke and say I have a problem. Good problem.
I had a feeling you had a problem. Your husband called me and asked if we could set up an intervention.
I do have a problem. No, actually, that's with resin, probably. I hate to say that, because that's my second passion, is creating, because that's when I do most of my meditation and connection. A lot of conversation and connection with spirit is because I'm creating, and just that kind of person, and I'm relaxed and my mind's not thinking about anything. It's just worked for me. I found something that works. But the same thing I say to people with crystals, because crystals can be very intimidating, is I usually suggest, if somebody has an esoteric shop, to walk in and use your eyes. Say there's a bunch of crystals. What are you drawn to? What's pulling your eye over there? Like, why are you, pick it up. How does it feel? What does it feel like to you? Pay attention to those type of things. But then we get them home and we're like, well, what are they supposed to do? Why do we have them? Remember, somebody has written that book and shared their interpretations as a starting point. And then as time goes on, some people adopt the same meaning, but it doesn't have to be that meaning for you. And another thing I want to add really quick, say you're just starting out with crystals, you love them. Quartz crystal can hold the intention of any other crystal frequency that you need, including if you don't know what you need, but you feel like you need a crystal, you can ask your guides to help you, as well as that crystal, believe it or not, to help embody the energy of what's required. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those jack of all trade crystals.
Mm-hmm. Or same as angels. Have you found that too? Like, because there's just it's infinitesimal, the amount of angels that are available. Right. So maybe I may not know the name that's needed. So I might just ask for whatever angel is required to best help with the best result in love and light, or however I'm getting wordy. And I just trust that that's who will come in. Have you found that yourself?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll put out the SOS, like, all right, I'm having a bad hair day. I need the angel of good hair to come help.
Absolutely. Good hair day, anything. Parking spots. And I will tell you guys from personal experience, I literally will say when I get in the car, angels, please protect me and all those around me that are driving. And you could ask for 100 gazillion angels if you feel you really need that, right? They're there. And the other thing, before I go, are you going maybe to the doctor's office and it's crowded? So I will ask, again, I set the intention that I don't want to take from somebody else, but if it's available, could they please, I'd like a parking spot at the front. And many times it works out. And if it doesn't, I know maybe there's a reason, maybe somebody more needed it than I did in that day or what have you.
Right. Mm-hmm. And one thing I want to add too is, like, your angels love it when you talk to them. You're never bothering them. I have been doing a lot of channeling over the last 2 weeks, and my channeling abilities have definitely gotten a lot stronger. What's interesting to me is every time I open up that channel and I call my light circle forward, the very first thing I feel is joy as they're coming forward, because they're working through me at that point. And they're always saying, Nicole, thank you so much for calling us forward. We love working with you. Thank you for talking to us. And if I forget even one day, like I didn't consult them this morning, I know that when I consult them later or tomorrow, they'll be like, you missed us for that one day and we missed you, but we were still around you. But, so they're really encouraging that relationship and that communication. And so I want to say that to you guys too. Like, that's what your angels want. They love talking to you. And I know that can be really hard to fathom. Like, why would these beings love talking to us? Probably the same reason we love protecting our kitty cats and our dogs and our animals. We're like, oh my God, you guys are so cute. We just love when you love us. It's the best. So
no, they do. They do. Yeah. Talk to them. And I don't even realize when I'm doing it. Like I say, I usually wait till everybody goes to bed. I don't sleep a lot. And then all of a sudden I realize, oh, wow, I was like meditating. I didn't even realize everything was just sort of hot. You don't even realize what you were doing because you're so enwrapped with the conversation or what's going on. I've had spirit to hold classes with you when you meditate. They'll like I said, they're here for us. We're not taking them away from anyone because there's no space or time on the other side. They can be in a gazillion different, different places at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are almost out of time, honey. I knew this was going to happen.
We did. We predicted this yesterday.
Well, like I said, you'll see more of Nicole on my channel, and I think you'll be seeing some stuff between the two of us together as well. Make sure that you tune into her show tomorrow night. I am like marking my alarm to remind me in case I get busy. But Nicole, tell them everything about you. Where can they find you, your classes, everything about you?
So you can find me on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram and Twitter under the name Guiding Echoes. There are a lot of scammers out there, so just beware that I am the only Guiding Echoes. So, and I don't use the name My Official Guiding Echoes. There's no underscore. It is Guiding Echoes with an E and one S, because you'll see that the scammers will have two S's or they'll have an extra letter. So it's Guiding Echoes. It's spelled as one word on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So you can interact with me there. On all of those different platforms, I have different types of content for you. So on Instagram, I have daily energy forecasts. On YouTube, I have our live broadcasts every Tuesday. I'm about to go back into the pick a cards and pick a channeled readings because a lot of people love those. I have a lot of good things in the work for you guys as I'm getting ready to amp up that channel again. So if you'd like to order a reading with me, you can visit my website at guidingechoes.com. And you can also email me at hello@guidingechoes. So those are the best ways to connect with me.
I love it. And I will throw in very quickly, if you ever want to get a hold of me, I do mentoring, I do teaching, I do readings, I do healing sessions. Even maybe you got a show idea or a guest you maybe you want to see on the show or whatever, you can get a hold of me on facebook.com/The Angel Rock. The other thing is I have an email, The Angel Rock 1508. I was going to say 1508, but 1508 at gmail.com. Feel free to reach out. I also have two groups on Facebook, Paranormal University for all things within the paranormal, including ufology and things like that. And then I have the Angel Rocker Tribe for many of the things that we talked about this evening. So they kind of cover the whole sort of gamut of things, if you will. So I'd love to have you join us sometime. Please join us next week here on the Angel Rock, Monday night, same time, same space, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I was thinking of your show already. We're here for 2 hours every week. Next week, I will have the amazing Cheryl Hines on, and she's a psychic medium as well. And surprisingly, I don't plan it this way. Some of the people I just meet, I can work with different people, like I'm sure you do too, like secretaries and things, but you trust that they're going to be amazing. And she is. So I can't wait to have her on. She's got an awesome book. And yeah. So Nicole, thank you so much for being here. I loved having you here. You can tell by
Thank
the
you. It was so
comments.
much fun.
I loved it. So everybody out there, have a wonderful rest of your week. And I always say I send you all so much love and light. Please be sure to share our network with your friends. There is something literally for everybody on this network. Wouldn't you agree, Nicole? We've got so many different types of shows.
Oh, yes, we do. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So wherever you may be, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. And we'll see you next Monday, same time, same space. Thanks again, Nicole.